Christiaan Huygens on the calculation of games of chance, published 1657 though formally dated 1678, stands as a watershed moment in the development of probability theory. It elevated the mathematical analysis of games from mere recreational pursuit to a rigorous scientific endeavor, laying the groundwork for future statistical and probabilistic reasoning. To appreciate the significance of Huygens' contribution, one must first understand the intellectual landscape from which it emerged and the challenges it sought to address. Prior to Huygens, the mathematical treatment of games of chance was rudimentary, largely confined to empirical observations and ad hoc methods. Girolamo Cardano's Liber de Ludo, a book on games of chance, written in the 16th century but published posthumously in 1663, represented an early attempt to analyze games mathematically. Cardano explored concepts such as sample spaces and the addition rule for probabilities, albeit in a somewhat informal and unsystematic way. He grappled with calculating odds in dice games, but his work lacked the conceptual clarity and axiomatic structure that would characterize later developments. Similarly, Galileo Galilei, prompted by a question from the Duke of Tuscany concerning the probabilities of different sums appearing when 3 dice are rolled, provided an accurate analysis but did so using enumeration rather than a generalizable probabilistic framework. These early efforts, while valuable, isolated and lacked a unifying theoretical foundation, avoid that Huygens' work were akin to Huygens, deeply influenced by the work of Blaise Pascal and Pierre de Fermat on the problem of points, which involves dividing the stakes in an unfinished game fairly between players based on their probabilities of winning had access to their correspondence through his Parisian contacts. This correspondence, concerning the equitable division of stakes in an interrupted game of chance, sparked a period of intense intellectual activity which led to Huygens' breakthrough. However, Huygens' approach differed from Pascal's and Fermat's, who primarily focused on specific problems. Huygens sought to develop a general theory applicable to a wider range of games. This ambition is evident in the structure and content of On the Calculation of Games of Chance. The core of Huygens' work resides in his introduction of the concept of mathematical expectation, also known as expected value. He defines the value of a chance event as the sum of the products of each possible outcome's value and its probability. In modern notation, if a random variable x can take values x sub 1, x sub 2, through x sub n with corresponding probabilities p sub 1, p sub 2, through p sub n, then the expected value e of x, according to Huygens' principle, is given by a following summation: E equals the summation from I equals 1 to n of x sub I multiplied by p sub. This principle, seemingly simple in retrospect, represented a profound conceptual leap. It provided a way to assign a numerical value to uncertain outcomes, allowing for rational decision-making in situations involving risks. Huygens then applied this principle to analyze various gambling games, such as dice games, card games, and lotteries. He meticulously calculated the expected values of different wagers, demonstrating how to determine fair odds and identify advantageous bets. One paradigmatic example, detailed within his treatise, concerns a lottery where one prize is awarded for a single ticket drawn from a pool of tickets. Huygens rigorously demonstrates how the expected gain from purchasing a lottery ticket equates to the value of the grand prize divided by the total number of tickets. This precise calculation epitomizes his dedication to elucidating fair wagering practices. Huygens presented his findings in a clear and accessible manner, using geometric arguments and numerical examples to illustrate his concepts. He refrained from employing algebraic notation, preferring instead to express his ideas in prose. This decision, while perhaps limiting the generality of his results from a modern perspective, made his work accessible to a wider audience, including those without extensive mathematical training. His book, written in Dutch, was soon translated into Latin, the lingua franca of science at the time, further disseminating his ideas throughout Europe. The publication of On the Calculation of Games of Chance had a significant impact on the development of probability theory. It established probability as a legitimate branch of mathematics, attracting the attention of other leading scholars. Jacob Bernoulli, in his Ars Conjectandi 1713, acknowledged Huygens' influence and built upon his work, further developing concepts such as independence, conditional probability, and the law of large numbers. Abraham de Moivre, in his Doctrine of Chances in 1718, also drew inspiration from Huygens, extending his methods and introducing new techniques for analyzing probabilistic problems. Pierre-Simon Laplace, in his Theorie analytique des probabilités 1812, recognized Huygens as one of the founders of probability theory, highlighting his contributions to the establishment of a solid mathematical foundation for the field beyond its immediate impact on the development of probability theory. Huygens' work also had broader implications for science and society. His concept of mathematical expectation provided a framework for quantifying risk and making rational decisions in uncertain environments. This framework proved invaluable in fields such as insurance, finance, and economics, where decisions often involve weighing potential gains against potential losses. The development of actuarial science, for example, owes a significant debt to Huygens' pioneering work. Insurance companies rely on principles of probability and expected value to assess risks and set premiums, ensuring their financial solvency. Similarly, investors use probabilistic models to evaluate investment opportunities, balancing potential returns with the likelihood of losses. Despite its undeniable significance, Huygens' work also faced certain limitations and criticisms. His focus on games of chance, while providing a concrete context for his ideas, also restricted the scope of his analysis. He did not explicitly address problems involving continuous probability distributions or statistical inference, areas that would be developed by later researchers. Furthermore, his reliance on geometric arguments and numerical examples, while accessible, lacked the generality and power of algebraic methods. Some critics argued that his approach was too narrowly focused on practical applications, neglecting the development of a more abstract and theoretical foundation for probability. Moreover, Huygens presupposed a particular interpretation of probability, now referred to as the classical or Laplacian interpretation, which posits that all possible outcomes are equally likely. While this assumption is valid in many games of chance, it tends to break down in scenarios where outcomes possess variable likelihoods. This limitation notwithstanding, Huygens' insightful quantification of expectation provided a key stepping stone for Bayes' subsequent articulation of conditional probability, a more nuanced approach that would ultimately transcend the confines of equiprobable events. The Bayesian framework allows assigning probabilities to events on the basis of prior knowledge or belief and updating those probabilities as new evidence. In retrospect, Huygens on the calculation of games of chance represents a crucial turning point in the history of probability theory. It marked the transition from ad hoc methods to a systematic and rigorous approach, paving the way for later developments. His introduction of the concept of mathematical expectation provided a powerful tool for analyzing uncertain outcomes and making rational decisions in situations involving risk. While his work faced certain limitations and criticisms, its enduring legacy is undeniable. It laid the foundation for the development of probability theory as a fundamental branch of mathematics with wide-ranging applications in science, technology, and society. A somewhat amusing, though intellectually stimulating, anecdote from this era highlights the initial bewilderment surrounding probabilistic reasoning when presented with Huygens' calculations demonstrating the long-run favorability of a strategy in a particular game. One seasoned gambler reportedly exclaimed, "These numbers defy my very intuition." Such counterintuitive odds sent shivers down my spine even amidst the thrilling uncertainty of the game. This sentiment exemplifies the early resistance to abstract probabilistic reasoning, even as its practical utility became increasingly evident. Huygens' treatise stands as a testament to the power of mathematical reasoning to illuminate the complexities of chance and uncertainty. His work remains a valuable resource for anyone interested in the history of probability theory and its applications. It serves as a reminder that even seemingly simple ideas can have profound and lasting consequences, transforming our understanding of the world and shaping the course of scientific progress. Huygens' legacy, quite fittingly, continues to influence how we calculate the odds, weigh the risks, and ultimately play the game of life.